Hold on, everybody. My name is Paul. Welcome back to the channel. And in this video, we're talking again about the only thing that you or your clients care about, and that is growing total sales while keeping TAR costs stable or ideally lowering TAR costs. So in this video, we're basically talking about match type, performance analysis, KPI and OKR tracking, and bid optimization tracking. So the only things that we can really do on Amazon, again, to achieve this is we can obviously launch new products and SKUs and add new variants and USPs to existing products or to the existing catalog, but specifically from the perspective of a PPC specialist or SEO specialist, the only things that you can really do and that you should focus on the majority of the time is launching new campaigns, adding new keywords to existing campaigns, of course, like obviously doing market research, target research, meaning like new keyword research or like observing the reports, and obviously bid optimization, placement optimization, and again, like launching new campaigns, I said that, and basically like target, search term, and ad position, negation, archiving them, reactivating them, whatever. Those are basically the only mechanisms that you can like basically activate and utilize to achieve this goal, right? So at the end of the day, I'm a big believer in just like the Pareto principle, because yeah, like all of the reports that I'm sharing, I can just recommend to you that you're careful with them, because like paralysis can also lead to, analysis can also lead to paralysis. So at the end of the day, we all know the Pareto principle, right? 20% of the actions will lead to 80% of the results, and 80% of the actions will lead to 20% of the results. And while I'm all for, tracking and reporting, like all of this good stuff, we have to just like drill down on what really moves the needle, right? So at the end of the day, the 20% of actions that achieve 80% of the results, specifically in the PPC and SEO department, are basically the activities that I just mentioned, right? So first things first is basically we want to observe our match type performance for SP, SB, SD, and period over period. And this sheet is basically obviously I've blurred out the portfolio, but this basically allows you, number one, to observe the performance on account level and then to drill down on portfolio level. But like that really only works if you've segmented your child ASINs per portfolio, and if you have single ASIN, single, like you don't necessarily have single ad group campaigns, but like one ASIN per ad group and the ASIN in the naming scheme of the ad group. Then you can still segment the performance, but obviously Amazon does not provide the capability to observe search term or like match type performance and search term performance on child ASIN level. So you have to work with the reports and like avoid the mistake. 99% of people match match types per basically per ad group, and that just like makes everything exponentially more easy, but down the road it makes it just exponentially harder to correlate performance to each other. So at the end of the day, also one of the reasons why I recommend that you use single ASIN campaigns is because if you are not using single ASIN campaigns, number one, you have no idea how each ASIN in the campaign is performing for the placements, top of search, rest of search, product detail pages. Number one, you can kind of like evaluate it through AMS, but like let's face it, 99% of people don't have an AMS integration. AMS allows you to observe the first thing. The second thing is like if you now implement, number one, you don't even know how each ASIN in the campaign is performing for the placements. Basically activate a placement modifier. First of all, you don't even know how each ASIN is performing in the campaign because you only see the average of all ASINs for the placement performance. Number two, now you activate the placement, and you might activate the placement for top of search, even though one of the, 4 ASINs hypothetically in the campaign is not even performing well for that placement. So like it just makes the optimization contingencies less accurate and precise. And that's why I'm just a proponent of like a granular campaign structure, right? So at the end of the day, the Pareto principle, right, is we all know the Pareto principle, right, is just like a basic mathematical principle underlying our physical existence. At the end of the day, it's just like mathematics and physics 101. And oftentimes our ego likes to detach things like, departments from each other. But at the end of the day, even Amazon PPC is still grounded in the reality of mathematical first principles, right? That's just like first principles thinking, right? I'm not smart. I'm like just listening to people who are smart. And again, that's basically like the scientific method, or Elon Musk obviously talks a lot about this. And like the first principle of performance marketing on Amazon is just that we literally have to increase, impressions or like glance views and impressions while keeping the ratios of click rate, conversion rate, and of course, ACoS, customer acquisition cost, all of that good stuff, stable, right? That's at the end of like easier said than done, right? It's not easy, but it's also not hard. It's simple, right? You just have to consistently initiate the contingencies we just talked about. So at the end of the day, this is just our, this is just a performance tracking template. I'm not currently using that anymore, but that's basically what we like. There are multiple like versions of this PPC tracking. I've seen a dozen different iterations, but it's all the same, right? We're always tracking outputs, right? But like the inputs are basically creating the campaigns, right? And like optimizing the bits of placements, negating search terms, adding keywords, adding ad groups, all of this good stuff, right? So at the end of the day, now we basically go ahead and we evaluate, right? For example, here we can see category targeting is performing really well, but has low percentage of spend. So we obviously want to go ahead and shift more percentage of spend towards targets with a high, return of ad spend, or like even return of investment, but just with a low percentage of spend. Because if you're an, veteran in the industry, at the end of the day, approving an account just comes down to shifting percentage of spend and reallocating percentage of spend of the ad budget towards ASINs with the highest ROAS, right? Through the mechanisms we just talked about. And again, easier said than that, but that's at the end of the day what it comes down to. And on ASIN level, same thing. We have to do that on target level, right? We have to just shift percentage of spend towards the targets that are ideally undervalued, meaning have like a high ROAS, but low, high search volume, but low spend. And we obviously want to move spend and put it there, right? Especially from wasted ads. So at the end of the day, how does that look like, right? We want to especially focus on keywords where we have keywords. Keywords is the same principles, but shout out to M19, great analytics tool, free, right? Free, dude, so generous. And basically ROAS descending. And now look at all of these. Obviously, I want more clicks here, right? Dude, obviously, right? So yeah, like gold planning campaigns were great, and I'm gonna dive because like the bottleneck is really time, right? How can I quickly deploy, hundreds of campaigns and basically increase my input output leverage, right? So obviously we all know Archimedes said it, right? Give me a lever long enough and I'll lift the world or whatever. I don't know like the exact expression in English, but long story short, if you have an hour of your time, right, how much output are you producing? That's really what it comes down to. And not everybody's hour is the same, right? So at the end of the day, but like let's face it, the biggest lever on Amazon is really improving the product, right? And I'm saying this with like all humbleness because I'm like a PPC specialist, top 1% in my opinion, and like based on the case studies, objectively I think so too. But again, I have to prove it again. But like long story short, I say this with the biggest humbleness is like the biggest lever is the product, right? The product has to consistently improve, be the best cost to value ratio, and basically, because I always say this, right? I can't teach my grandmother how to achieve exceptional results for Apple, right? With an order campaign, it will always perform for Apple, because it's Apple, right? So yeah, but that's beside the point. So again, shout out to M19, and yeah, then same thing, same principle. We all obviously also want to do this on search term level. So the next thing, so first of all, obviously I would look at, we have this for account level and portfolio level. You know, portfolio level, observe for what for what this ASIN, yeah, that we just observed. For example, here at M19 for this ASIN that we just observed. Let's take one with a little bit more data, but long story short, you have segmented portfolio, you tried ASIN per portfolio or inserted the ASIN in the ad group name, and you have single ad group. Like then you just go ahead and you filter for that ASIN, and now you would run that analysis. Obviously, I've blurred out, and I'm not going to click on it to basically show the ASINs. And you obviously just target, for example, in this scenario, you would like roll out substitutes more and focus more on close match, and yeah, like focus on something that I would basically focus on. And obviously, you run that analysis on for every product, of course, like for your hero products first, and our intention now is obviously to do the same thing on ASIN level, right? So on ASIN level, we use sheet like this. It's just like simple formulas, right? But obviously, at the end of the day, it just comes down to doing it. Like you don't necessarily need a reporting scheme like this, but it's just like helpful and valuable because basically, obviously, I've learned out the keyword list, but it just helps us to evaluate, okay, are we basically after we've changed a bit, and obviously that's directly correlated to if you use fixed bit up and down only. But long story short, like most people just always increase bits with the intention to grow sales and to lower our costs, right? But at the end of the day, it's not that easy, right? There's a lot of moving parts, and for example, in this scenario, you can see we increased a bit week over week, but the conversion rate decreased and the sales also decreased and ACOS increased. And why is that due? That could potentially be due to the fact that now you're in bidding pools. Shout out to Christian Kell from Analyze, OG, credit for credit is due. I'm telling you, credit for credit is due. He basically was talking about the fact that you are moving into more competitive bidding pools, meaning like now you show up for like more competitive placements next to ASINs that are basically maybe like have a higher cost to value ratio or like better reviews, like more reviews, better rating, whatever. But now you can go ahead and basically look at the total amount of impressions, because obviously the search and impression share gives us our impression share, and the impressions that basically allows us to reverse engineer the total amount of impressions according to Amazon, right? We have to take into consideration that it's according to Amazon, because you and I both know that data integrity on Amazon is not always good. So but like we can see, okay, our impression share week over week, right? We increased our bit according to the search and impression share report, but our impression share decreased, right? And obviously that's also due to like maybe weekly is not the best way to evaluate the data, because maybe like there's weekly fluctuations, and obviously like consumer behavior plays into that. But we could go on and on for hours. That's like a whole other rabbit hole. So now let's say we have evaluated that, okay, we have selected an ASIN where we have high ROAS, low percentage of account level spend, and our intention is to increase our spend, and therefore like shift our account level TACOS through just shifting, reallocating budget to ASINs with a better return on investment. So next, you will basically go ahead and obviously you can then go ahead and go into the search and impression share report. You can basically then go ahead and filter for all. I'm just not going to do it now, but like you get the point, right? You filter for everything where you don't have impression share, number one. Okay, then you filter for the portfolio or the ASIN, right? Because we don't want to do this on ASIN level. And again, I'm not going to say it like I sound like record if you have segmented your child as portfolio. And then you obviously want to filter for everything with minimum one order. And honestly, ideally now you want to get the Cerebro export or the search core performance report export and get the search volume in here, because we want to focus on targets with high search volume, right? I want to focus on all, but like I get it that you should like prioritize the ones with high search volume. Let's say now we have a keyword list of like 10 keywords where we have proof of concept, no ACOS, search volume is high, but we have no data, right? And most people say, oh yeah, but only €3. This is only going to generate an extra €3. Cool. Like, do you have an empirical data set to validate your hypothesis, right? Because I'm a big believer in being humble, and I don't believe in like arrogance. I don't like arrogance. I think it's a strategic disadvantage. But now let's say we have a keyword list of 10 keywords that we want to push. And let's say we have like 10 variations. Maybe we have the same product and like 10 different variations. Now we go ahead and we basically use this, builder, right? Now can launch, we basically say, okay, we want to launch single keyword campaigns for that ASIN and whatever placements. Let's leave them for now. We want to basically build auto campaigns, and then the tool is basically building them automatically for you. And why have we not built it? So we basically built this tool here, and that basically helps us to basically log in. That helps us to streamline the whole campaign creation process. And why have we not built a UI for this? It's honestly because the pro of just keeping the UI in Google Sheets is so we just use excerpts. But like it just allows to be more flexible, right? You don't have to hire developers. That basically just increases the cost for you. And then we basically can be more flexible because there's a great metaphor for what's what's more strong, what's stronger basically. Is it the bush? Not this bush. This is the German word for it. What's stronger, right? Is it this year or an oak tree? And at the end of the day, first you would assume that the oak tree is stronger, right? In this scenario being the software with an UI and everything. But and like this year being just a UI in Google Sheets. But like when the storm hits, what you want to adjust, like when the storm hits, what do you think cracks first? So that's basically why we kept it in Google Sheets. And so that's basically why we kept it in Google Sheets. And now, as you can see, the tool builds the campaigns automatically for you. Right now, let's say we observe that, let's say we observe that substitutes was not being rolled at all. And of course, we just go ahead and we just activate substitutes. And you get the point, right? Now, you can also go ahead and basically get this list here, right, of all of these, low, high ROAS, and low click ASINs, and basically activate bulk orders. Right now, we want to activate bulk orders, only close match and loose match activated. And basically, we want to segment them because if you're advertising, especially also on Amazon, you know that if you have auto cap, it takes around 30 seconds. And now voila, as you can see, all of these segmented ASINs in a matter of like 20 seconds. 30 seconds, obviously, we want to get that down. So we're working on it. And now let's say based on our keyword set, we want to launch single keyword campaigns. And you've also fetched an ASIN list. So I'm going to create another keyword research video soon. And now let's say we want to create exact match campaigns, phrase match, and broad match. We can also say broad match modifier. And you get it right now. Then basically we would again run this based on our match type analysis. And then 1 second, boom. Again, now you get the point, right? It's not really rocket science. And now you can basically do the same thing for multi-keyword campaigns. Right? Let's enable multi-keyword campaigns, exact match. But let's say we have 50 keywords. So we kept it at 50 because like there's not really any use case where we should have campaign with more than 50 keywords. And let's say you want to have 5 splits, right? You want to split the keyword set into 5 campaigns. Then maybe 20 seconds again. Voila! As you can see, it's being split into 5 batches basically. So that just allows you to completely streamline the campaign creation process. Of course, it's just also products. We have like branded display too. And yeah, that's basically it. Then you should also have some type. Then you should also have some type of system where you track period over period for your ASIN list after you've increased or decreased traffic. How did that affect the DSR and your profit at the end of the day? Because let's face it, that's at the end of the day the name of the game. So yeah, that's basically the video for this time. Feel free to give me any content recommendations. And yeah, my name's Paul. If you drew value from this video, feel free to like, comment, share, and see you in the next video. Happy optimizing. Mwah.